There was no red flags, no warning signs that he was so angry that he was going to come and do what he did, which is what makes him so dangerous.
It was a brutal, senseless murder that shocked the whole community and destroyed Matt and Carol's lives.
We've all had high school flings, but usually they come and go and both parties move on with their lives. However, in some cases, one person takes it so hard, they ruin many lives for it. This is the tragic story of Ellie Gould. When she was 17, she started dating a boy she'd known for a while. After a few months, she broke up with him and she died for it in the most gruesome way you can imagine. Let's dive into the insane boy who stabbed his 17-year-old ex for control. This very upsetting story begins in the small town of Calne, Wiltshire in southwest England. It's home to around 17,000 people and sits on a beautiful river looking over green pastures with horses and sheep. This was the peaceful life of Ellie Gould, who was born on February 6, 2002, and lived with her parents, Matthew and Carol. She was a year 12 student just getting ready for university, where she wanted to study psychology.
Yeah, she was on the brink of adulthood. She was blossoming into this beautiful young lady. She's working hard at school, studying hard for A-levels.
But apart from psychology, Ellie had another strong passion: horses. She'd been riding for years, participating in cross-county equestrian competitions. She was even planning to join the mounted police once she turned 18.
She wanted, at a time, to join the police force, the mounted police, again because of her love of horses.
Tragically, Ellie never made it to her 18th birthday. But why would anyone take Ellie's life? She was a kind, funny girl who would never hurt a fly. She had nothing but friends who had good things to say about her.
Something just jumped out to me. Like she was just so quirky. Like there was just something about her that you just fell in love with her instantly, really.
Her friends described her as a real, honest, and all-around lovely with everyone else. Most of Ellie's friends were her schoolmates at the Hardenish School in Chippenham. It's a huge, comprehensive school which brings together all ages from 11 to 18.
So really nice people, quite an affluent area.
The school did bring together people from all over Wiltshire, but Wiltshire is one of the UK's safest counties to live in.
Wiltshire's a very safe place to live. It's one of the safest counties in the country. It's got some thriving communities. Homicides in Wiltshire are fairly rare.
So if Ellie was a lovely, friendly person and Wiltshire was one of the safest areas to be in, what exactly happened? It all starts with a high school fling. In early 2019, just as Ellie turned 17, she began dating a boy she'd known since the 7th grade. His name was Thomas Griffiths, and he was also an A-level student, getting ready for graduation.
This whole case is tragic. The two people involved are in a point in their lives where they've got the whole lives ahead of them.
In fact, Thomas was Ellie's first boyfriend, and a reason for excitement for her and her family.
And she said to me one day when she came home from school, "Oh, Mum, my boy's asked me out." And I said, "Oh, that's nice. Do you know him? How do you know him?" "Oh, well, he's friends of some of the boys."
Thomas was a familiar face to Ellie throughout the school years. At one point, she developed a crush on him.
Ellie had been chasing him for a few months before they actually got together, so they had sort of been on and off, or at least been in contact for a while before they actually became an official relationship.
Thomas was a quiet boy who rarely said a lot in a group of friends. In fact, when Thomas started coming to Ellie's home, Ellie's dad didn't like him much, precisely because he was too quiet. Her mom, on the other hand, was sure this was something specific to their age, a normal kind of teenage shyness. Ellie's friends thought so too.
I think we only saw the quiet side of him because maybe he was intimidated by the big personalities in our group. But she told us that he was a lot more caring and open and louder and funnier and more outgoing when he was with her.
But if his quietude was just a layer of Thomas, Ellie's parents simply didn't think Ellie and Thomas were a good match.
I wouldn't have paired him with Ellie.
No.
I'd say that. They were, to me, it just seemed like a mismatch. I couldn't see what she found fun about him, or why she wanted to be with him.
But there were no signs that there was something wrong with Thomas. He was a good student, a school prefect, and his mother, who was a primary teacher for kids with special needs, never took him to counseling or discussed any strange behavior. Perhaps there was nothing to discuss, or perhaps she was sheltering her son, aware that there was something very dark and disturbing festering inside him. There is perhaps a crucial detail to Thomas Griffiths. He was an excellent sportsman, training for the professional level.
People who are performing sport at that level have often been trained to hide their emotions. They perform in the moment. Nothing else matters in the moment other than their desire to win. And I wonder if some of those things might give us an insight into his personality.
Simply no one around Thomas suspected he was going through difficult times or experiencing dark thoughts. He showed zero signs of aggression and had a perfectly stable childhood.
Griffiths had everything. He had a stable upbringing, supportive parents, everything he wanted. But he couldn't take rejection. Just a spoilt monster.
Indeed, this was the breaking point for him. It was springtime 2019, and Ellie's final exams were around the corner. She wanted more time to herself to study and start applying for university courses. But the more she pulled away, the more Thomas would suffocate her. He wanted all her time and wouldn't take no for an answer.
She wanted to be able to focus on herself and her friends and A-levels. I just think she got fed up with him having to see him every night, or him getting grumpy if they didn't see each other. And I just think she realised herself, I don't want to be in this situation.
Finally, at the beginning of May, Ellie broke up with Thomas. But Thomas had been going through a difficult time, which he was unwilling to discuss with anyone. During that spring, Thomas lost his grandmother, and both of his parents had been ill, with his dad in the hospital for a fairly long time. Matt and Carol learned this as Thomas kept coming to dinner at their place, but he wouldn't share his problems with them or with Ellie.
His dad had to remain in hospital and have some form of treatment every day. And I remember saying to him, is that radiotherapy? And he said, no, I don't know, I can't remember what it's called. I don't know.
But even with sadness in the family, Thomas had no excuse to react the way he did. And tragically, no one saw how upset he was until the very end. As always, Thomas didn't speak to anyone about his feelings. All Ellie's friends knew were her own feelings about the relationship.
We sat down during one of our free periods and we spoke about it. And she told me all of her feelings and how she just felt weighed down by him and she didn't want to be with him anymore. But we weren't alarmed by how he would react to that.
Ellie saw Thomas as the possessive person he was, so she decided to break up with him via text.
So she broke up with him the Thursday evening. And I remember this is all through social media again, but she was just saying how he was denying it, saying, no, we're not going to break up, this isn't what's good for us, we should just stay together.
However, it only takes one to break up. Ellie had made her decision, but the next day, Thomas had made a decision as well. He would kill Ellie. On the morning of May 3rd, Thomas walked into his school and asked about Ellie's whereabouts.
Does anyone know where Ellie is? And I think somebody said, I think she's coming in at lunchtime with Ellie Welling because they've got no lessons this morning. She's at home revising.
Thomas wasted no time in leaving the school, telling his teachers he was feeling sick. First, Thomas went home and changed his clothes. He thought he would be home alone, but just then, he heard the front door.
His mother came home, and he didn't want to get caught out by his mother about not going to school, so he hid in a wardrobe in his bedroom.
The minute his mother left home, Thomas stole her car keys and drove off. He didn't have a driver's license. Within 7 minutes, he was at Ellie's place.
He apparently wanted to see Ellie, to talk to her about the relationship, to try and resume it, to persuade her otherwise. If that was genuine, he would have just stayed on that bus and come through to calm. Instead, he chose to go home, change his clothes.
Unfortunately, Carol is right. Thomas didn't have any good intentions at that point. He knocked on Ellie's door, entered the house, and followed Ellie into her kitchen. There, they had an argument. Then he strangled her. Then he picked up a knife and her in the neck 13 times. Ellie fought for her life. She hit and scratched Thomas as hard as she could, but Thomas had a weapon. When Ellie fell to the floor dead, Thomas cleaned the weapon and put it back into her neck. This was a very childish attempt at covering his tracks. Finally, he put Ellie's lifeless hand over the knife to make it look like she took her own life. Thomas tried to clean the red stains off his clothes, then drove home, changed, and went out again, dropping his clothes in a woodland area. Someone saw him coming out and drove him to school, where his mother picked him up at the end of the day. She had no idea what her son had done that day. Then Thomas used Ellie's finger to unlock her phone and text Ellie Welling not to come to her place to pick her up.
It got to about 11 o'clock, I believe, and I got a message from her saying, don't worry about picking me up, I'm just going to revise from home today, which was quite common for Ellie. I think it didn't alarm me at all. It was very, she hated history. We both did.
A few hours later, Thomas would post some very strange messages on his social media accounts.
I did get a strange message from Tom saying that he'd been self-harming.
He had sent the group chat a message saying, oh, I'm, as you all know, me and Ellie aren't together anymore. Going on about that.
Later on, he texted his friend saying that he and Ellie were actually going away on a break together. Then he texted Ellie's phone asking if they could meet. None of this made sense to his friends, but the tragic truth would very soon be uncovered. At 3 p.m., Ellie's dad came home from work.
So I come into the house, walk into the kitchen, put my phone and wallet down on the table. And then from the corner of my eye, I see Ellie's legs on the kitchen floor.
It took Matt a few good minutes to realize what had happened. He simply couldn't compute the reality of losing his daughter in such a sudden and horrific way. Soon, Carol came home along with several police cars and an ambulance. No one could believe what they saw. It was a brutal, senseless murder that shocked the whole community and destroyed Matt and Carol's lives. The police quickly realized Ellie didn't take her life by stabbing herself in the neck.
So she was lying face down, she was lying on her arm, and her hand was on the knife.
One of Ellie's neighbors had seen Thomas walk into her home earlier that day. When the police found him, they found the fresh marks on his neck, clear signs of defense. He was immediately arrested for the murder of Ellie Gould. Thomas's first response to the police was, "Is Ellie okay? I haven't seen her today." He was completely unwilling to admit to his actions. But his phone's location services tracked his whole journey. His fingerprints were all over Ellie's phone too. And now the police knew he had sent fake texts from his phone after killing her. Thomas was charged with Ellie's murder and is serving a minimum of 12 years in prison. The news of a 17-year-old killing his ex in such a small, tightly knit community shook everyone to the core.
There was no red flags, no warning signs that he was so angry that he was going to come and do what he did, which is what makes him so dangerous.
There's little peace of mind that Ellie's family can get now, even with Thomas behind bars. Some people believe he should be jailed forever, as he is a dangerous monster who conceals his feelings and could strike again at any point. Others believe that it doesn't matter what happens to Thomas. Ellie is gone, and nothing can bring her back. It's a deeply tragic and upsetting case, as no one saw any troubling signs, and no one could ever deal with such a young person taking the life of someone he once loved so dearly. What do you think about this case? Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section, and be sure to like and subscribe for more.